What up, everyone? It's Led Black for another episode of Uptown Voices. I got my brother Octavio Blanco on the call. I mean, on us with me as always. But I really want to get really into it because we do have our Councilwoman Carmen de la Rosa. We have to talk about that horrible accident that happened on Sherman. But also, I want to first even start. I want to just check in with you because you're a tireless worker for community, and you've been put to work. You know what I'm saying? There was the fire, and then the parade, and then the after parade next weekend. And now this. How are you holding up?
I mean, it's been a rough few months for Uptown. I'm holding up. I think that for me, the thing that keeps me the most grounded is that this is my community, right? Like, I grew up on Dyckman Street. My parents live on Post. I still live in the area. And so to be able to walk the streets that I grew up in is what keeps me grounded to what's happening here. So it doesn't feel like work. It feels like mission, right? To be
Right.
able to leave an impact on the things that are happening uptown. It's been disheartening. I have to say that, they're long days and long nights, and these are real lives of people that are impacted every single day. So, I've been holding on to my faith. I'm on the way to church, as I told you guys earlier, and just trying my best to stay grounded in the mission.
It's good to hear. Because it's not easy. That accident. Because it was covered so many angles on social media. If it happens an hour later, several people would have died. Like, I'm surprised no one died with what happened.
It's truly a miracle. It's truly a
Truly,
miracle.
truly a miracle. Schools right there. But again, it's
Yes.
like I've seen it. I'm always driving in the neighborhood. I see them doing donuts on 191st in St. Nick, especially in the Dyckman City area. Like, there was a protest yesterday, and I think it was led by the community board, and it's great while we talk about like speed bumps. Like, but what do you think can be done now? Because I think one of the things I said
Yeah.
yesterday is that, like, sometimes the lawlessness is kind of is because there's a lot of times uptown there's no enforcement. You have double
Yeah.
parking, triple parking. You know what I mean? So many things that are just minor things that are not dealt with. What do you think can be done, and what's the reason for it?
For sure. I look at it in three buckets. The first bucket is that, and I'm gonna talk about the government piece, like the piece that I'm responsible for, right? We've been asking DOT since 2022 to redesign all of Sherman, right? In 2022 we had the tragic death of Joel and David. David, who I grew up with, who I've known as
Right.
since a child, right?
Yep.
And so first of all, we send our condolences to their family who are still in
Condolences to
that
that family.
grieving process, right?
Yep.
So we asked and we walked and we have been sounding the alarm both in the Adams administration and now in the Mandani administration for a total redesign of Sherman. And when I mean a total redesign, we need to change the direction that cars are traveling. We need to slow down Sherman Avenue. In my opinion, and it may be a little controversial for the drivers, we need to narrow Sherman because it's a wide avenue. And we need to make sure that, honestly, the cars are in a line, right? We got to create a little bit of traffic there so that there's no speeding. Because what
Hmm.
ends up happening with Sherman, which is one of the few big avenues that we have in the district, is that people are using it as a raceway because there is enough space to do donuts. There is enough space to turn back around. And so we're asking for a full redesign. And we've been going through that process with them since 2022. Obviously, there was a change of administration from the Adams administration to the Mandani administration. We have a new mayor, we have a new DOT commissioner. So we're gonna keep pushing. And I've been in touch with them since the accident on Friday. They know how I feel about this. And it's not just me, it's every elected official speaking in one voice about someone is gonna die here. You talked about this accident and you talked about if it was later in the day. I think about it if it was 3 weeks later and school has already started, right? And
Hmm.
and that
Right.
avenue, that intersection is full of kids every single day. I live a block away from there. So, on the government side, that's what we have to do. Now, I want to say something, and I'm not into policing adults, but I do think that one of the things that I've been seeing a lot lately in the community is like, where are the politicians? Where are the politicians? But I'm gonna say from the politician side, where is the consciousness of our community that this is what you find to be fun and entertainment is putting your life and other people's lives at risk? Because at the end of the day, government intervention can only go so far. Human adults who think, right, should know that speeding Drinking while driving, running red lights, doing donuts, and reckless driving is putting people in danger. And this is not fun. Like, how is this fun? You wanna have fun? Go to Six Flags and get on a roller coaster. Do not turn
Right.
our communities into, violent intersections. Traffic deaths are violence, right? And so we want to make sure that we're also appealing to humanity, to dignity, to consciousness of our community, to raise that consciousness up. And then third of all, I think that, and Led and Octavio, you all are very active in the community. So this is not a slight to anybody who is active. But when something big happens and people are like activated, it's exciting, but I need that activation year round, right?
Right.
Nothing happens without the community backing either the elected officials or showing up at a community board meeting or showing up at a precinct council meeting. I can't tell you how many town halls I've had. And one of my first town halls was on transportation, and we had a good turnout. We had about 150 people. But a lot of the people that I see that are now activated haven't come to these meetings, haven't been traditionally active. So this is a call and an invitation really to get active, right? To come to these meetings. It's not the only forum to get active. Obviously, social media works. Obviously, community gatherings work. But I need folks to get active because when we show numbers, it proves, when I call downtown, let's just say for a housing issue, I call HPD and I say, hey, there's a leak in this building, right? They go back and they look at the 311 complaints. And if our community isn't making 311 complaints, they think it's just the obsessive council member who's, asking for something because she's a A-type personality, rather than no, there is a history of complaints in this building or on this block or in this intersection to make sure that we're backing the elected officials when they make requests, right? Because all that data is shared among the agencies and they know where the complaints are coming from. And it's like they say, the squeaky wheel gets the oil.
Very true. Octavio.
Yeah, I have to say that I commend you for your quick action in all of these events that we've seen this year. In this particular event, I agree with you that people have to be conscious of their own decisions and their own activities. If you have a driver's license, then you should be responsible for how you operate your vehicle. I'm with you on that. I will say though that it is important that our police and our people who are supposed to be protecting us are out there and making sure that laws are being followed. There's so many ways to do that, Beth. I do see this as a both of a short term. We need short term solutions, and we need also the long term solutions of a redesign of Sherman Avenue. I have an idea of, wouldn't it be cool to have like a median like we have in Broadway that goes
Yeah,
down the middle of Sherman Avenue, creating green space and sitting areas where people can chill, and also doing some of that traffic calming that we desperately need. That's a long-term solution that takes
yeah,
funds, it takes all that stuff. Short term, what can we do to make sure that the police is present and is doing the job of monitoring speed, monitoring double, triple parking, which has been a problem uptown, as long as I've been here since 1998. As
yes.
well as U-turns, illegal U-turns are a big issue. People don't go around the block; they just make a U-turn in the street, and that can be very dangerous. So, how can we make sure that the police is activated?
Yeah, I think going to the precinct councils is an important part of that. Keeping an open relationships with the community affairs. I have been in contact with the police, and they have been somewhat responsive. They're limited in their tools, right? One of the policies is that they seldomly chase speeders because of risk of a car or a motorcycle going on the sidewalk and causing pedestrian deaths. But I do agree with you that that enforcement needs to be ramped up, right? And it's controversial because we've also seen what traffic stops have done for Black men
Hmm.
across this country as well. So it's a conversation to engage in, right? But there's a
Right.
responsibility in calling for more of that type of enforcement.
Yeah, this whole issue is such a double-edged sword because, on the one hand, we want to make sure that there's enforcement, but on the other hand, we are a community that's been over-policed on for so many years that we have a tendency to reject that kind of enforcement. Also, people want to put up speed cameras and things like that, and yet
Yes.
that's another double-edged sword because people don't want to be have this, mass surveillance that we're all undergoing. But at the same time, we need accountability for people that are breaking the law. So it's a very sticky wicket, very controversial, and very difficult position for government to be in, where you're trying to, you know, um respect the opinions of all your constituents who want all of these, important things, and like protecting our rights, but also protecting our safety.
Yeah, I'll say two quick things on the red light cameras. They're authorized by Albany. So Albany has to give the city permission to install red light cameras. And they give us a number of red light cameras every year that get installed across the city. So there is going to be some state advocacy, which we've been doing for years, in order to get the reauthorization of red light cameras in New York City. And then the second thing that I'll say on this is that I also believe that the median idea should be implemented into the German redesign. And that's exactly what I meant when I said the narrowing of the street, right, in order to calm the traffic measures. So I'm looking forward to engaging in the conversation. And I know that Community Board 12 is going to be taking this and other things up this fall. They come back online in September. So again, another invitation to join the Community Board.
And Carmen, I want to go back to the Dominican Day Parade and the aftermath. And what happens also after the Bronx Dominican Day Parade. What are your thoughts on that situation, and what do
Yeah.
you guys have in the works for next year to try to avoid this
Mhm.
situation?
Yeah. Well, the first thing that I want to say, because there's a lot of information about what the plan was, right? There was a plan for after the parade, but the plan for after the parade, in my opinion, wasn't adequate, right? And we could never have known that thousands and thousands of kids were going to come uptown. We saw it happen after the Bronx parade. There was an increased response. I think that they asked for 200 additional officers for after the Dominican Day Parade in Manhattan. And those officers, though, were broken up into shifts. And so what it ended up happening is that, if you break up 200 into 4 shifts, it's not that many more. Right. And they were overrun by people. But again, this is another area where I feel like personal consciousness comes into mind. Like, I'm from the days where we had teen nights. You remember teen nights, led, right? And
Yep.
I mean, I had to clean the whole house in order to get permission to go to teen nights. But our parents were on it when it came to us being outside and how we were outside, right? I would have never climbed on a car, right? Like, those were not the type of things that we were doing when we were that age. And I think that one of the things that I wanted to be sure to say to people, as someone who's raising a young brown child in our community, our kids are not the enemy. Right, we got to engage them.
Yep.
We got to
Good point.
bring them to the
Thank you.
table.
Thank you.
I very much believe in the idea of no decisions about them made without them. They should be at
Hmm.
the table. They should be telling us what they need and how we can engage in them. But it's another area where, like, personal responsibility also comes in, right? We need to know where our kids are at all times. We need to be teaching them about the dangers. I think about that young man who lost his life that day, right?
Hmm.
Because it's not just about the property
Right.
damage, and it's not just about the chaos. Those things we deal with as a community, and we will continue to deal with them. But it's the loss of life, the violence that ensues when these type of gatherings happen, right? That family will never be the same again, and we have to prevent that at all costs, right? That week was so heavy. We lost like 3 teens in the Bronx. And
Mm.
then, we lost this young man uptown. And it's just so disheartening to see this type of behavior. So there was a plan in place. It wasn't adequate. And then what we ended up seeing was that the takeover was announced for the following weekend.
Right.
And that takeover, it was a flyer that was going around. Who knows who put the flyer up? Who knows, if it was real or not? But what we do know is that we had a heads up. And so we were not about to allow for this to happen again. One of the most heart-wrenching conversations I had after this event was with the BP gas station. Teresa and her husband have been the owners of the BP gas station on Dyckman for 35 years, and they're seriously
Wow.
considering closing their business. They had hundreds of thousands of dollars in loss to their
So
business,
much.
as well as trauma. So much trauma from this experience. And so, it's disheartening to see this. And this is not what our community is about, right? Like, Dyckman Street is popular. It has always been popular, but it's become more popular now because of social media. And I guess the message to everyone is like, let's use social media as a force of good, right? Let's try to engage with these young people. Off of this experience, I'm going to put together like a youth roundtable. We have some youth providers and services providers in the community. One of the things that always comes out when these things happen is like, there's no resources in the community. And like, my skin crawls, because I can tell you that of the millions of dollars that we bring in a year to the district, more than half of that goes into education and youth services. So there are many programs. The problem is that these kids are not necessarily in those programs, right? And so how do we capture their attention where they are and where they want to be? I think is a question we have to ask ourselves.
And just to that point, like, it is a certain subset, it's a certain age of young boys, you know what I'm saying, that were kind of causing the problem. And then what happened is, like, you have all the young boys from, the region almost. So like, one of, like, with the kid that got killed, he was from Long Island, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
and it's just like it becomes a magnet. So how do you kind of deal with that? That it really is almost something, because of social media, it's almost something that's hard to track.
Yeah. Well, guess what? I'm the tech chair in the city council. And one of the things that I was able to do very quickly, when this was happening, was get in contact with TikTok. I got in contact with TikTok and I said, hey, there's a hashtag, Dyckman Takeover. Can you take down the hashtag? And they did.
Oh,
So I
wow.
think we need to engage these social media companies to, obviously there's a thin line between free speech and
Right.
tracking all of these things, but they can and they do work with law enforcement when it is a matter of public safety. And so one of the things that we should do, and now that I'm in this committee, is to engage these companies to see how we can also bring more positivity to the young folk who are using these hashtags and posting things. I think that they are a big part of the conversation, are these social media companies as well.
Good point.
That is fascinating. I'm so happy to hear that you did that you were able to connect with TikTok, and certainly I think in the planning for next year's post parade activations, inviting TikTok, inviting Instagram to be a part of that is a
Hmm.
great way to both attract the youth who wants to be involved in that space, and also make sure that Instagram and TikTok are being responsible about the way in which they interact with our community and what they allow. That was
Yes.
that was a really interesting point that you made there. So thank you.
Yeah, I'm looking forward
Um,
to having more of a tech conversation with y'all soon.
yeah,
We have
yeah.
some really
Well,
interesting stuff coming up.
yeah, we need to do that. And I know that your time is limited, so I don't want to take up too much of your time. But I also know that our community has been dealing with a lot of ICE and immigration issues, where we've become much more targeted as the you know administration has really ramped up the way it's rounding up individuals. And so I wanted to hear a little bit. I saw you quickly on Isham Street after that
Hmm.
incident that happened there. What can we look forward to, or how can you help the community? There's a lot of initiatives out there that are available to people. I think we need to make sure that these are still that we invite our all of our clergy, all the people in the community.
Yes,
I want to make sure that, and I know that it is, but I just want to hear a little bit. It's limited what we can do, but as people, we do have a lot of strength when we unite.
of course, of course. Look, first of all, shout out to Linda, who is like our spirit guide
Right.
right now. May we all grow up to be badasses like her.
Yeah.
And she's a great example of someone who can put her body on the line and has, right? And that's what makes me like so happy to be Uptown, right? Because that's who we are. Like, that's the
Right.
embodiment of who we are. When
That's
any of
right.
our neighbors are in need, we show up, right? We show up, and we show up so hard. And so there are a lot of mutual aid groups and mutual support groups that have formed We call them rapid response groups as well. So if folks are interested in that, hit us up. We'll try to see how we can get you into some of these circles and some of these networks. It's so important that people that do have documentation, that do have the privilege of being able to raise their voices, that they do so, and that we put our bodies on the line for those of our neighbors who cannot. The second thing is legal services, right? It is so important. And in this conversation about showing up and showing out, no one that goes to court that doesn't have a lawyer has even a shot, right? They're arresting people right at the courts. And so making sure that our legal services networks are robust, that the funding is there, that we have lawyers on deck, that we have their phone numbers, that they can directly supply information and services. And every case is different. That's the thing, right? Like somebody could have gotten their deportation stayed, and some people get deported. The cases are all very different. And so legal services is still going to be the cornerstone of that. My office, we have lawyers, immigration lawyers that are in our office 3 times a week now. We've increased it. It used to be once a week. Now we're at 3. So please reach out to our office if you need immigration consultation. And there are other services in other places that I'm not going to mention here, because obviously we want to make sure that we're keeping some sense of privacy for the clients. But I think that, making sure that those services are robust, making sure that our community knows their rights, even if you're documented, right? Because the thing is that when you're walking down the street, I sees you. They don't know if you're documented or undocumented. They just see someone and they're going to profile, and they're going to use every dirty tactic in the book that our community is already experts in dealing with. Because newsflash, we were at the crosshairs of the war on drugs. So we already know how to engage with law enforcement, right? But this is a ramped up rogue agency that does not care for the well-being of anyone. Right. And so keeping ourselves alert, keeping our neighbors who are in the margins, who don't have the ability to speak up for themselves, aware, and then making sure that we're tapped into these circles locally. This is another area where we're going to be forming a table with some community activists around showing up and being more using our voices in a louder way around ICE and ICE intervention into our community. This is not new. I remember in the early 2000s, my uncle got picked up coming from a factory, right? And he got deported and he's in DR. Like, these things have been happening in our communities for a really, really long time. But this agency is way more rogue with, that guy, that man, that monster in the White House.
Yep. Hey, Carmen, I know we're gonna let you go because I know you need that spiritual nourishment. But as far as that video of the incident with Ice and Linda, someone posted in the comments, in the world of Karens, be a Linda. You know what I mean? And I thought that was, I thought it was really good. But I just want to thank you for the work you do, the tirelessness. Anything you want to say before you go?
No, just, I just want to say this, and it's just a personal thing that I have. Remember that we're neighbors at the end of the day, right? Like, people see me walking around, sometimes with my kids, sometimes in the supermarket. Like, your elected official, all neighbors, we all share a community. And I want to make sure that people remember that humanity is what's going to make this place better. So let's remember our shared humanity, and let's, understand that all of us in our own ways are working to make our community better. And Uptown is the best community ever. Like, I'm so proud to be from Uptown. So let's continue to spread love. How do you say that? The Uptown way?
Spread love is the Uptown way. That's right. Thank you, Carmen.
Exactly.
Appreciate it. And again, I want to say also, last thing I want to say, that you have carte blanche here whenever, any Sunday you want to jump on, you have something important with the community. We're here to help the message. Like, I do believe that it is important for us to work with elected officials. So, you got anytime you want to be on it, where it's open house for you.
And also, when you have committee meetings, I guess we'd like to know. I mean, I know there's a calendar. Sometimes it's hard, but to make sure that we get the word out to the people, to our viewers, because I think those meetings happen downtown usually, right? So it's not.
They do. They're in City Hall. And the next one is going to be on 311, and then we're going to have one on 911. I don't know if you guys saw in the news, but last week there was a big glitch in 911, and 1,700 calls were blocked. So we're going to be holding a hearing on 911. So I'll make sure that you all have that information and share it with the community.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you, Carmen.
Bye. Thank you.
I'm glad that that's such a just so much information there. That was amazing. That was a good the councilwoman really puts in that work. So, I mean, I'm really happy that we got the chance to talk to her.
That
Because that accident was crazy.
Well, the accident was crazy. What was surprising to me, and maybe was that we've been fighting for some kind of action to redesign Sherman for like 3 or 4 years now, and Department of Transportation isn't isn't you know like is not responding. I mean, that's preposterous. Like, what the heck is going on there?
But to be honest, I don't think. I mean, again, I think that that thing is, regardless, that's a long way from happening anyway, right? Like, I think just stepped up enforcement. It doesn't have to police be like I said, like the parking police, right? Like, just give people tickets for double parking. Like, let people know that like that double parking, triple parking can't go on. Like, that doesn't happen. So what I'm saying is the Sherman thing is great. But before we even get there, like double, triple parking, like I said, when I go to my mother's house and if I park on St. Nick, I'm gonna have to. I know I'm gonna get blocked in. I'm gonna have to go to every damn store. Excuse me, that car out there. I hate that shit. One time I went and the guy's getting a fucking haircut, and I'm like, excuse me. He like, yo, give me a little bit. I was like, give you a little bit, motherfucker. I gotta go. Like,
I gotta go. What I mean? Like, block him in.
So, yeah, I mean, some of those things need to be, again, like I love the grand plans and that's great, but just sometimes simple enforcement can make these things better, I think.
I mean, for sure, but like the fact of the matter is that it's been 3-4 years already. If they had done something 3-4 years ago, this could have been avoided. It might have been avoided, if not only just because there probably would be construction still happening. But anyway, I mean, I think you're absolutely right. I think enforcement is so important and it needs to happen. I do appreciate, the double-edged sword of enforcement, but we do have traffic enforcement. Like, what I always like walking around and feel like angry about is when I had a car. If I didn't move my car, the second that street sweeper was coming through, or the second that the time, not even that the street sweeper was coming through, but the time was changed. Like, if I didn't move my car like that instant, boom, I got a ticket. They're on it when it comes to that. But I see people double, triple parking, nothing. I see people doing U-turns in the middle of the street dangerously with traffic coming, instead of just going around the block, which, it'll be a little longer, but please give me a break. Like, U-turns in the middle of the street are so dangerous for other drivers, for pedestrians, for people on bicycles, and it's just like a fact of life. People do it in front of police. I've seen that happen and they do nothing. So it's like, you're right. There needs to be enforcement. But then again, we're like a super, policed community, and then we're inviting more enforcement. So,
but it's weird. I want to say something that, like, I think is going to be like a kind of controversial, right? But because I think a lot of times we tend to think of things like right now this is happening, but I think people forget about the blue flu, right? That like during the end of the Biden term, the cops in New York City stopped doing anything, right? They just stopped. They stopped all types of enforcement. Like, again, like some of these things are not huge deals. Like, yo, you shouldn't be able to triple park. Yeah. You know what I mean? You shouldn't be able to double park. Like, I've seen it on fucking Broadway. You know what I mean? I was one time in front of United Palace. There was a double park on both sides of the street. And again, that doesn't take like regular, beat cops, right? It just takes like the people that give parking tickets and make sure like every day everyone's getting tickets until you're not gonna be able to park here. You know what I mean? And that kind of behavior needs to be stopped. And again, because the blue flu was for so long, people got used to it. That's what I'm trying to say. Like, people don't realize that, like, for so long in New York City there was no rules. Right. And then you try to get rules back. It's not the way it works. And it's like, if you don't do it, like, again, it needs to happen because these tragedies, like, and again, the thing about the Sherman Plaza idea, which is not Sherman Plaza, whatever you call that redesign of Sherman, it's not just happening on Sherman. Right. I saw people doing donuts on 191st and St. Nick. I saw videos doing it on Fordham Road, which is Fordham Road. Fordham fucking
Yeah.
road. Like, you know what I mean? Look, so
I mean, I've seen video of people doing it on the highway. Like on the highway, they'll do it. They block the whole highway and they take over the highway. I've seen that.
mm-hmm. That's what I'm saying. I think the blue flu caused like a culture of lawlessness that's hard to take out, you know, after you did it. And it's tough, right? But again, like if you don't do it, you like that incident, accident, and I don't want to say the word horrific because that's the word that Democrats use when they don't want to say genocide. So I'm not gonna use that word. But it was horrible. Like that accident could have been so much worse. Like you saw the guy that was just on the scene. He just happened to be going probably to or from work.
Yeah,
He
that guy is the luckiest guy. He is the
he could have
lucky.
died.
He had moves. He moved quickly. I mean, I think he got bumped and injured, but I saw that video and I was just amazed at how he was able to just get out of the way. That was incredible. He could have died very, very if it was a matter of milliseconds that saved his life and a matter of like really like millimeters that also saved his life because it was really, you know, so close and so scary. But yeah, you know, this summer has been, I mean, it's been a crazy summer. The summer they said it was going to be one of the hottest summers uptown, and I think it's been one of the hottest summers that I can remember uptown of just people wilding. There's been positives, like the Knicks being when everybody was outside after the Knicks win. That was such a beautiful energy, and that was like very local people doing that. And I want to bring that energy back. I want to bring that energy back where we're enjoying our neighborhood and we're enjoying our neighbors, and we've got something to celebrate. So, you know, let's make sure that we can do that. And to people who are, you know, coming from outside of the neighborhood, you know, I welcome you all to be here, but, you know, please, you have to, you know, make sure that you're respecting our neighborhood. I want to play a video from the press conference yesterday. This is Manny De Los Santos addressing that issue. So here we go.
What's the example that we're setting to the kids here, to the folks who are living here, who have sacrificed themselves for years to remain in Washington Heights? We could do better, and we have the next generation that we have to show them, you know, what we had built and what we're capable of doing here. And the how we do that is by teaching them that's what had been happening. It's not the right thing, and that folks from, let's call it, let's face it, folks from the Bronx, from all over the city, are now coming after Takeover 2 or 3, are coming to Washington Heights because they feel that this is a community that can be destructive, right? And we have to send a message that that's not who we are. And that whoever comes to this community, to this district, we demand for them to be respected for who we are. They're welcome to come here, but they most respect the community and its people that live there.
So there you go. You know,
good morning, everyone. My name is Anthony.
That's Manny De Los Santos yesterday addressing the community and addressing this issue. So important that anybody that's coming in here, you know, yeah, Dyckman welcomes you. Dyckman is fun, but Dyckman is real also. We've got people living here. We've got children. What Carmen said about, you know, if this had happened 3 weeks later, that's terrifying, you know, terrifying. So yeah, and so, you know, I do think that this is going to require a community effort and to be involved with the community and to be attending both city council meetings and community board meetings. I want to play another clip of Anthony Viola, who is Community Board 12 president, and he was talking about how, you know, what the plan is for Community Board 12.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Anthony Biola. I am the chair of Community Board 12 here in Manhattan. Community Board 12 represents Washington Heights, and as Luana mentioned, we did pass a resolution in early 2024 regarding this very issue. So unfortunately, it is a travesty what happened this week, but not an unexpected one, right? We have asked our partners at DOT to look at Sherman and create a plan, and they have not done that. We have called on NYPD and our local elected officials to take steps to prevent what happened this week from happening, and it has not happened. We have not seen those plans. We have not seen them take those steps. And so I am very grateful for Luana for pulling this group together and asking for more to be done. It shouldn't take something like what happened this week to get people together in a room to devise a plan. My hope is that this will at least re-spark the conversation. At a community board like ours, we do have the bully pulpit to bring people together, to bring DOT leadership in a room and look at what's going on. And that's exactly what we're going to do this fall. We have a traffic and transportation committee that convenes every month. We are going to make this a top priority within that committee so that we can get DOT leadership to talk about what happened and to devise the plan we asked for more than 2 years ago.
So there you have it. I mean, I want to make sure that our viewers understand just how important it is to be involved and to be activated, and to be activated consistently. You know, community board meets. Please attend the meetings. It's so important for people to show up. For whatever reason, if more people are there in person, the issue gets more attention. They do have the ability for people to join online, and I encourage people to do that as well. But if you actually are present, it just sends a strong message to the community board and to our elected officials that these are issues that need to be taken care of.
Yeah, facts. You know, again, it's like, you know, social media is great, right? You should use social media as a tool, but you have to go there because it's like you're either at the table or you're on the menu, you know. And it's like people do attend these community boards, and you always don't have our best or the majority of the people's in this community's best interests at heart. So if you're not attending, some people are, other people are, and they're gonna get what they want. You know what I mean? And they might be a small group, right? They might have just moved here 5 years ago, right? And they want to try to reshape it in their image, right? And then you're the problem. So you have to be there, like go, show up, support. Like a lot of times, like people complain and talk shit, but like that's not gonna get things done. I'm sorry, you know what I mean? And you know, that's why I keep saying like we have to have good working politicians in office. And then you know when they're good, when they're honorable, then we work with them and we you know we work with them, right? It's not like hey yo go do your job. It's like we're gonna amplify on our end too. We want certain things. And again, like it's fucked up that a tragedy got to bring us together, but you know this could have been way worse, way worse. And thankfully, no one died. You know, some of the pictures I just was I'm like how you know, and it's 6 o'clock in the morning. Like, what are you doing? Like, you know what I mean? So there's a lawlessness that needs to be addressed. You know, it really does.
Speaking of that, we spoke also with Councilwoman De La Rosa about the post-parade Dominican Day Parade planning. Led, you have a good idea that I think is very, I think would be great. So to talk a little bit about your
funny.
thoughts.
I'm gonna tell you something funny, right? It was actually my wife's idea, but I don't like to give her credit for stuff because she thinks everything is her idea, but it was her idea. And I was like, but she don't really know about that because that was like that was my backyard. So my idea or her idea that is now my idea that I'm selling as my idea to the whole world is basically, you know, back in the days after the Dominican Day Parade, everyone would go to behind G Dubs, right? So you know, on Amsterdam. You know, 190 if it becomes Fort George or whatever, Ave.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like that right behind G Dubs. And you know, you have the basketball court, you have the field, but there's no from the beginning to end, you can control access in and out, right? And also, you can make sure cars don't park there, and you can make it a place where when I was a kid, that was the greatest thing, and we would all show up. There would be no beef because you having performances, you have food, people really enjoyed themselves, and again, I think you need something to address it. I also think you need to get away from Dyckman during that day, right? So other people can enjoy Dyckman, like, because again, that day with a lot of people lost money on that. The Dyckman Strip, Dominican Day Parade should be a big money maker for them, right? Like, you know what I mean? Like an Irish bar on St. Patty's, right? Like, this is the day you tend to make a lot of money, right? Because your margins are low almost every day anyway, right? So this is a big deal. No one made money, so get people away from Dyckman, get people through the actual proper heights, and bringing back something that we used to do as kids, and it worked, and it was great, and again, you could really control the thing a little better, and I think that would be a great idea.
Yo, your wife is on the chat. She's
Oh
saying,
shit!
I better get a commission.
That's hilarious. That's funny. That's
Eileen,
hilarious.
you better get on that. Man, no, but I think that's a great idea because number one, Dyckman is Dyckman. Everybody's going to want to go to Dyckman anyways. So I think you're right. Like, let's find another spot that's historically a place where people celebrate post parade, and B, St. Nick and that whole commercial corridor that's up there in the 190s could use like the extra foot traffic and the customer base. And there's a lot of businesses there that could really benefit if we do just like expand the scope of where do we do a post parade activation. And I think we made news today with the councilwoman about TikTok, and that she did call TikTok and that she did ask to have that hashtag taken down, the Dyckman Takeover. I do think that they're, like she said, it's a thin line between freedom of speech and safety. But yeah, you don't want to encourage, if you're a TikTok or you're an Instagram, that this hashtag, gains speed and makes the rounds. So that was really, really interesting. And it shows to me that Carmen is thinking in an agile way and able to use the levers that are at her disposal to help the community. I hope to have we can have a much longer conversation with her about her technology plans for the district. And it's a double-edged sword, but it's also, got so much possibility. Like the fact that she's able to reach out to TikTok. Wow, if young people, young Dominican York people are really into creating, and let's get them involved with the company on which they're posting. Let's make sure that company has an outreach that can sort of talk to them about like where the power of these creations really lies and how to do it safely and to do it as a force for good rather than like, this destructive force.
And I have a controversial take, and I should keep it to myself, right? Because I'm not thinking it'll piss some people off. But I almost feel
you are gonna piss people off.
I think I might. You know what it is? I feel like maybe you shouldn't have the Bronx DR parade, right? Like I think you have one a few weeks later, the main one downtown. The one in the Bronx has been really problematic, for a minute. And the problem is that and again, like, yes, you can't criminalize youth. True, I never want to do that. But a lot of these kids in the Bronx, they're like little gang members. You know what I mean? And they go to the Bronx parade. It's the like, it's not adequate at all, the police plan there. And then basically this guy runs into a beef someone he has beef with from another block, another gang, and it becomes really another fight. So I think the Bronx one is really out of control, and I hate to say that as Dominicans, right? Because I think there's also like an internal thing that we need to do as Dominicans, right? Like this is not cool, this is not acceptable, this is not who we are, right? Again, so like, yes, we must engage the youth, but the youth have to understand that this is not cool. So I say that to, like, so the Bronx, the operator have problems. The the regular parade after party Uptown had a problem. I saw an event in Boston, which is a Dominican event that had problems, right? Like we also have to check ourselves and say, yo, that's not cool. You know what I mean? Like Carmen said, like you could get, with these donuts, you could kill someone. You could kill yourself. You know what I mean? Like this, there has to be, like, and I remember when I was a kid, one thing that's different is like you had OGs, you had people that might have been doing bad things in other realms. They might have been a drug dealer, but they kind of kept like the blacks in check. And I think it's not the same way anymore. You know what I mean? And I think things run rampant. And again, like, with that second team takeover, that could have got really ugly because I think the people are Dyckman themselves. The young folks are like, yo, this don't come here with that shit. So it's just like, I think that, we have to check ourselves and there has to be some self-policing of our own shit too,
Yeah, I mean, for sure. I think that we have to take responsibility as members of the community, whether it's Dominicans after Dominican Day Parade, Irish people after St. Patty's Day Parade, Puerto Ricans after the Puerto Rican Day Parade. All these parades, we want to be celebratory of our culture, or we want to be celebratory of our people. We want to get together. We want to be outside, but we have to do it safely. That means that the organizers, I don't want to put too much, more on their plate, but organizers have to make sure that they're taking all of this into account as well. City council, city electeds, city community groups. We need to start planning now for next year to make sure that like all the right things are put in place, all the right people are being spoken to, that we include youth voices in there, that they are also included in this, because otherwise, idle hands are the devil's workshop. So, the idea of inviting social media platforms to, put up a stage, that'd be really, really cool. The idea of having youth organizations do tabling, whether it's like a midnight basketball league or a soccer league or a baseball league or whatever, or Vitilla, have a Vitilla tournament there. I think all that stuff we need to just consolidate, come together, brush off the what happened, make sure that we're, yes, self-policing, like you say, but part of it is not just about self-policing. Part of it is just like giving people an adequate forum where they can go and express themselves safely.
Yep. I want to switch topics a bit, right? Because I know it's almost time to go. So I just want to talk about a film I saw yesterday called American Doctor. I saw it is playing right now, I think in a very limited run at the Angelica Film Center on West Houston. Again, I think Octavio is probably one of the most important documentaries I've ever seen. It's visually like, when I'm gonna get into the topic of what it's about, but you usually don't see you don't expect to see a film of this nature to be so like cinematically, like, cutting edge, and so the movie's called American Doctor, and it tells the story of 3 American doctors basically going to Gaza to treat the people of Gaza, right? And it's one of those things that from the very beginning will shake you to your core. You know what I mean? Like my wife and I saw it, like she was like shaking throughout the time. Like, I ain't gonna lie, like I cried a few times, right? Because it is horrific what you see there. And I want to do a quick side note, right? So I don't know if you saw
horrific.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry for using that word. Horrific. It was horrible. But I want to do a little quick another side note on that topic. Van Jones, who's disgusting, coon, horrible human being.
Whoa. I mean, wait. Oh, really? Van Jones? All the way to that
Van Jones?
Van
Jones?
Yeah, Van
You're
Jones.
not following Van Jones. Van Jones is the coonest of cooning. Like he's a coon and a half, and he's a sellout. He's a sellout and a half.
I haven't.
Yeah,
you
haven't been following.
Recently,
you haven't. He's been a sellout for a minute. He always he's apologist for Trump, and he whitewashes things. So he did a video this week with a known Zionist woman, Tishby, I think her name is, whatever she was. And basically, his whole commercial was about negating this movie in a sense, not specifically, but negating what a movie like this represents, right? So he basically is him and this woman Tishby, and they're like, you know, AI is really bad out there. So you see this you see this. This is not real. This is AI. This is AI. Kind of getting you realize, so like saying the real horrors that you're seeing coming out of Gaza, right, in Palestine, those are not really real. Those are not really true. And that's what he was doing. He was whitewashing. Horrible human being. And when I kept seeing, when I was watching this film, I was like, yeah, when I was watching this film, I was like, this is what Van Jones is telling me now is not real, right? So let's go back to the movie, right? So what's interesting is that we're in a different place in time on this issue, that we've never been in this issue before, right? Israel is the most hated country in the world, true, right? And even both bases are disgusted with it, right? So what the movie is amazing because this thing.
Well, what do you mean? Both? You mean both parties?
Both bases of both parties have turned against Israel. Both. It's only old folks now, right? They're like they still support the status quo, right? But what's interesting again, because this tells a story of 3 American doctors, one of them who's Palestinian, but one is Jewish and one is a Farsi. He's a Parsi from India, right? And he's a Zoroastrian, right? So but the director of the film, her name, I'm really sorry if I'm not pronouncing it correct, is Pohsi space Teng. So I don't know how to pronounce it, Pohsi Teng, I think. But she does a brilliant way of bringing this horrible, just human suffering to really move you in a way like you will not be the same person that walks out of that theater if you go see this film. And I don't want to, no spoilers, but I just want to give you a little bit of what I mean by that, right? So the film starts where the Jewish doctor, last name is Perlmutter, you know, he didn't know anything about Gaza and Palestine, right? He was someone like most people that's been just accepting things forever. He's been indoctrinated, and he even said it in the movie. He's like, I thought, you know, Palestine was just full of, you know, terrorists. He said that. He had no idea, had no clue, right? And you know, and right at the beginning of the movie, you know, he's talking about the horrors he saw in his first stint there as a doctor. Right, he's telling you about the horrors, and so you see, you know, you see him talking on camera about the horrors he sees, right? And then what's interesting, right at the beginning, I'm only saying this beginning part. Right at the beginning, you see the like he says he's saying about pictures he captured there, and he's like, look what they've done. And he shows the pictures. He moves his computer so the camera can see the pictures. And then the director comes off like she breaks the fourth wall, right, and comes in and into the frame slightly, and she goes, I can't put those pictures in the film. She's like, I'll pixelate it. And he says, you can't pixelate it. He's like, we can't hide this. We can, and then again, it's building the drama. So you don't know what's on the screen yet. And the director herself is coming into the film saying, I can't post that. I don't feel comfortable. I don't want to sensationalize their deaths. I don't want to show their suffering in that manner. I think it's wrong. And he's adamant. So you don't even know what the picture is at this point. And he's like, no, you have to show it. He's like, I got permission from every one of these parents of these children to show it. Those parents want the world to know. You have to let the world know what our tax dollars are paying for. He's like, and if you don't show it, it's medical malpractice. I was like, damn. And then he shows, so she relents in the movie. You see the director relenting. Okay, it's done. And this is the first few minutes of the film, and you see the image, right? And the image is like 6, 7 babies lined up, dead, burnt up with fucking gunshots, right? And what this movie is so important because, you know, we get a lot of our stuff on social, but this film is one of those films that, like, again, you will not be the same after seeing this film. It will rock you to the core because it is such a real film. And again, this is what our tax dollars are paying for. And it destroys the myth that Israel's fighting the just war, the most moral army. All that shit is destroyed in the hour and change of this film, right? Because I'm gonna give you one more thing about the film that really shook me, right? So again, these are doctors, and they're saying, like, one of the doctors was saying, look, they're not gonna bomb, I think it was Al Nasser Hospital. They're not gonna bomb Al Nasser. They're not gonna bomb it. This is the UN gave this money. This is everyone knows this hospital. Everyone knows Hamas isn't here. No one would bomb this hospital. And he's telling his story, and then one guy goes, "What? Are you stupid? They've bombed every hospital. They're gonna come here too." And the guy was like, "No way, they wouldn't. They know there's American doctors here. There's from other places. This is not just Palestinian doctors. They're never gonna bomb here." Sure enough, they bombed there. And what's amazing is that you see footage, right? So you see this footage of people reacting to a bomb, like on a stairway at Nasser Hospital, right? I think it was Nasser Hospital. But you see people taking people down a stairs. That something happened. That there was an impact of a missile hit this 5th floor of this hospital, right? And you see them like trying to bring people down, trying to help, and then as you seeing that, you see another missile hit. Boom, right? And then in the frame, you see a third missile. Boom, they triple tapped it. And then the next frame, you see what happens, the result. And it's just bodies like congealed into other bodies. We're paying for that. So that's again, this is our complicity as well. And that's why I'm saying, like, that's why we're living in a complete revolutionary time right now. People are done with Democratic Party because this is Biden's genocide. People are done with both parties. And people are done with the status quo. Like, that's why Espaillat lost. This issue is that important. And I think everyone should see American Doctor. Like, that is the most important film you can watch right now.
Incredible. That is that sounds like a tough watch, but it sounds amazingly informative. And yeah, at this point, at this stage of the game, it's not a game, but this stage, it's extremely frustrating. Everybody has picked their sides. It's very difficult to convince people who are, pro Netanyahu, pro-Israel, that this war is unjustified, cruel, and a genocide.
Yep.
Folks who have chosen their side have chosen their side. But I do see more and more people who, like Perlmutter, the doctor, who were like, yeah, I just sort of believed what I was taught about Israel and how just it was, and how protecting our nation was so important. And I just and people say, I just sort of believed that, the Palestinians were always going to be out to be terrorists. But those people who, and there's still people that are on the fence, especially young Jewish people, and not just young Jewish people, but people of our generation that are not old, but they're not like in their teens either, who are coming to the realization that this is not for me. And even as a Jew, I cannot stand for what's going on in Israel. So thank you for bringing that to our attention. I think it's really important.
And that Dr. Perlmutter, to me, he's one of those characters in that film. Again, it's him. And what's really interesting again about this film is that you see him so they'll show you the televised interview he had on CNN, let's say, where he's speaking, and then the very next frame you see the behind the scenes of it because the cameraman was there for that that remote interview, right? And Perlmutter, Dr. Perlmutter he's radicalized. You know what I mean? He's really radicalized. He's seen so much. There's even a scene there where his wife, he's like, "I'm sorry, I didn't think you understand what I went through." The kind of what you see, and that's the filmmaking. Like, the cameraman is there. He's there after the attacks, and you see the babies, you see the people, you see Dr. Farouz, who's the Parsi doctor. He's like there talking again. He's very almost, I don't know, he's almost numb to it seems like, but he's like, okay, they're trying to save this little girl. He's like, okay, we could save her, but she's gonna lose both her legs and one of her arms, and that's the kind of just horrible things you're seeing. But again, it's something that you have to see because we're paying for that shit, and it needs to. We need definitely a change in direction. And I think it's one of those films that if you see it, you will come out different.
Thank you. I want to also sort of change the topic a little bit. I do think that that's super important. Before we go, I want to talk a little bit about the immigration stuff that's been going on. I attended a very, very interesting all-day immigration seminar um, uh, by a group that is sort of being put together and facilitated by Oscar Romero, the congressional candidate. He's now focusing his work into immigrant rights, and one of the things that they want to make sure that people start to understand is that a lot of people who are being picked up by ICE are being that's they're it's happening illegally. So if there's no warrant for somebody's arrest and they get picked up, that's an illegal action. And one of the issues that a lot of immigration attorneys actually don't even understand is that because the immigration attorneys, what we need to understand here is immigration attorneys work within an immigration justice system. So, like, immigration lawyers can be hired and fired by the administration. So, it's not really an independent justice system. But federal judges, like in the Southern District of New York and other federal judges, um, are in a different category and they cannot be hired and fired. And under the Constitution, nobody, no matter what your background, no matter what your status, you cannot be like arrested and held without a warrant. And so it's something that's called habeas corpus. It goes way back in time. It's one of the most like ancient laws that's been put out there. But there's this whole movement now to make sure that immigrants and anybody really knows their rights around habeas corpus. Even immigration lawyers don't usually understand how habeas corpus works or how to go ahead and um, uh, file a habeas corpus case because they don't work in the district courts, they work in immigration courts, and those are two very different worlds. So there'll be more on that, but one thing for people to know that there is an organization in East Harlem right now. We're trying to bring him up here to Washington Heights to do talks around this different angle of know your rights, habeas corpus, and how it can be very, very helpful, because what happens is when people get picked up by ICE, they very, very quickly want to move these people out of this jurisdiction and to like Louisiana and to
Right.
Texas. And they do this, and unless a district court judge makes a ruling about habeas corpus, which literally means to present the body, right? So, like back in the day, I'm talking about like way back in the day with like in England with the kings, they used to arrest people and put them into the towers and you never hear from them again. But then habeas corpus laws came to be, so it literally means, yo, where is this person? Bring them here to the court so we can see that they're alive and that we can see, what's going on. And so because of that law way back in the day in England, it was then enshrined into the US Constitution by the founders. And it's not a law that only applies to American citizens. It's a law that applies to anybody who is on US soil. So no matter what, you're not allowed, the government is not allowed to take you away without a warrant. And the warrant needs to be presented before your arrest. So there's all these little loopholes that ICE and everybody is trying to get around. Anyway, it's a conversation that's very important. It's a little bit wonky, but certainly something that at the same time is very straightforward. Habeas corpus is for everybody, and say that you or a loved one was rounded up at their place of work. Usually those roundups aren't done with warrants. Usually that's just a sweep. Let's say that they were rounded up at a Home Depot and just waiting for work. Usually those are not warrant arrests. Usually those are just a sweep, and that's an illegal arrest. And if you're in those circumstances, you can file a what's called a writ of habeas corpus. So we'll get more on that, but yeah.
And I want people to really imagine, what these people are going through, in ICE detention, right? Again, first of all, the whole thing was we're going to get hardened criminals, right? And the hardened criminals, I've known a few in my life, right? They're hardened criminals, right? They've been through the system. You going to jail is nothing to them, right? They've been there before. It's okay. It's like part of their growing up. But these are not criminals. These are regular working people. They are me and you, right? The person that goes, tries to feed their family, works a regular job, and now they're going through very punitive fucking conditions, right? Where the food has worms in it, and they move you around on purpose so your family can't see you. So let's say you get detained here in New York. Next thing you know, you're in Louisiana, and then they move you somewhere else, and you're going around the country, and then you're not eating well. You're fucking depressed, right? You haven't seen your family because you're a regular working person. That's all you do is work, go to school, feed for your family, and now you're in this situation. That happened to citizens that they'll get out, but they'll take 2 weeks sometimes. Like this is really fucked up because it's not about immigration; it's a power grab, right? It's about Trump having his own personal army to do what they want. These people are not professional, right? And again, this is horrible. So this is a bad move for society, and all we can do is try to learn from each other and come together and coalesce and try to do as much as we can against it.
Yeah.
And I have to say one thing also, go off topic of this. We have to shout out our good friend Ron Kane. The Just Words Nobody Cares podcast. We did it August 1st early this year. It was a long 2 hours that we recorded, and he just dropped the first part. I think this just a few days ago. Saw yesterday. It was a really good episode. It was really entertaining. Him and his lovely wife, were the host of it, and it felt good to be on the other side of it. And I think it was a great look. So make sure you check that out.
Yeah, and Led broke some news in that episode. So you guys need to check it out. Stuff that you haven't heard anywhere else before. And I'm
going to say one more story whenever you're ready. Go ahead, go.
Yeah, I was just gonna say I see in the chat apologists for the Israeli war and calling it people defend that Israel is defending themselves. The defense argument is just completely a red herring. I think they're done defending themselves. Now it's just punitive, and it's inhuman. And anybody that I feel like anybody who's making those arguments really doesn't have their eyes open to the reality of what's going on. So that's what I have to say.
Yeah, and it's interesting that yesterday after watching that film, we needed something like we need to like this movie was so powerful. Let's have some drinks, right? And as I'm a Chino Latino food connoisseur. Like that's the food of my childhood. Like for a lot of people that grew up in New York City, where places where there was a lot of Latinos, Chino Latino food was it. It was everywhere. I didn't have like standard Chinese food until much later in my life. That just didn't exist. All the Chinese restaurants in my community back then were Chino Latino restaurants. So I love Chino Latino spots. We still have Dinastia on 171st that reopened. Great place. But again, Flor de Mayo, love Flor de Mayo. I think La Nueva Caridad on 72nd, amazing. But I have seen on social, there's a one called in Brooklyn called New Apollo. I think there's two of them, one in Bushwick, one in Williamsburg. And we went yesterday after the film. We're like, we need, and I saw they have like these Henny coladas. You know what I mean? And I was like, okay, I want to go there. And it was funny because it's Williamsburg. It is gentrified Brooklyn, but there was no gentrification happening in that restaurant. that restaurant was old school Latino Brooklyn, like black and Latino Brooklyn. That's what that was. That was Willie B, old school, like that's what it was. And again, the food was amazing. I had they call it beef steak, but it's a bistec, like a bistec de palomilla, with a fried rice. We had tostones with the little garlic, the way they do it. The food was extraordinary, and the drinks were extraordinary. I had two, right? There was enough. You don't need more two. That was two for the rest of the night. You're done. Like, shut it down. You know, it's funny. And like, my wife is not a drinker. She's not a drinker at all. She's like, doesn't drink. She had one, and then she was like, I was like, okay, she's like, I don't want no more. I was like, all right, cool, whatever. And then she was like, let me get another one. Bad move. Didn't work out for her. But but again, it was great. Yeah. But it was the food was amazing. I would definitely go back. But what's interesting, right? So when we got out of there, you could walk out with it. We walked out with our drink and we said, let's take a walk. You know what I mean? So we took a walk. And I didn't even realize that down the block, my boy Carlos Maldonado Los, you know what I'm saying, of Classic Material has a store. So I was like, oh shit, this is my brother's store right here. So I went inside the store. He wasn't there, but I bought a shirt. So this is my shirt that I bought. Right,
I like that shirt.
I have three of them.
I like those shirts.
Yeah, I have three of them.
I'm gonna have to buy your style.
There's three of them. What's interesting? What does this look like? What kind of shirt does this look like? Let me see if you know.
It looks like an African, a
dashiki.
Like African shirt. Dashiki,
it looks like a dashiki, but it's a dashiki and a tee, so it's a dashiki tee. Or dashiki. But I love this shirt.
My dad has a Guayabera T-shirt.
Yeah. Oh, really? Awesome. It's a cool idea. No, but Los made this. Is one of my favorite designs that he has. So he had given me one a while ago that I rocked in LA. And then I bought a green one that I've been rocking on the show one time. Yeah, and I got this one yesterday. So shout out to Classic Material. Really... Always doing dope shit. You know what I mean? But anything else, brother?
One last thing. It has not. I wasn't expecting to say it, but it just occurred to me as we were talking about food. Have you seen that Floridita has like a new location that's under construction?
Really? Where?
Across the street from across the street from United Palace. Like, yeah.
Next to Malecón?
Yeah, down on that block, the other end of the block.
Like where the vet is at?
Next to the vet. Yeah. And
so are they moving?
I don't know. That's what I wanted to ask you if you knew anything about.
No, that's amazing. I did not.
And I don't know. I heard it's under new management, all this stuff. I don't know. Anybody
really?
That's what I heard. So anybody who knows what's going on with Floridita and wants to drop us a DM or drop it in the chat right now, then let me know.
Yeah, because Floridita, to me, Floridita is one of the powerhouses of Dominican, restaurants uptown. And you have to differentiate, in my opinion, between the Floridita on Broadway and the one that's on Nagel. You know what I mean? They're not the same quality. I don't even know if they have the same owners. They may or may not. I don't know. But they're not the same in terms of like the Floridita on Broadway and 175th. 176 makes the best Cuban sandwich, and their lunches are on point. I think their food is amazing. So hopefully that doesn't go away.
You need to investigate that, because I know you have been a Floridita fan for ages, but yeah, for sure there's it's actually, it looks cool. Like it says Floridita on the wall. It's huge, Floridita.
It has to be they're moving. It has to be that they're moving. Has to be.
It has to be. Yeah, because
why would you open another Floridita across the street? Like, that's crazy.
No, that would be crazy. And I think that they're moving. I gotta say, like where Floridita is located now, where it's been located for so long, like there's been that scaffolding in front of that store for like years and years and years. So that's never good for like restaurants where you can't see the restaurant.
But also that first door to get to Floridita, you could take out your arm with that. Be like, God damn, like, this shit is no joke. Both doors are really like hard doors to open, man. For real, it's hilarious. But I love Floridita, man. Like I said, it's a great place. So hopefully they're just moving over.
Next time you go walk the dog, you should go by Floridita.
My dog too old. He don't walk that far.
I know. You know what I mean when I say
I know.
The dog.
Walk the dog.
go. Oh, and before we go, I don't know if you noticed this. You've been mentioning about the corner on 180th and 179th, and that there's no trash cans there anymore. But there's certainly still trash. Somebody's been dumping trash on the corner of 180th Street and Fort Washington. But that wasn't what I was going to bring up. Which that was, I saw that yesterday. It was disgusting. But the church, Holyrood, they had that green wooden wall because a lot of like addicts were going into that little area to inject themselves. They've put up a new wrought iron fence. It looks pretty nice, very, very tall. And so that green, like wooden, like shed that they had there is gone. Pretty interesting. Little update from Fort Washington and 180th Street. Anyway, Led, thank you for another good episode.
Yes,
We've been on for a minute. And let's keep at it, man. Let's keep going.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And remember, just want to remind everyone to, like the channel, donate, all that good stuff. Tell your people about it. Share it, all that. Like, spread love is the Uptown way.
That's right. All right, my